As of May 14th, 2018, Cliff Bleszinski's independent development studio, Bosky Productions, has officially shut down. Before we discuss further, let's read the official statement provided by Cliff himself via his official Twitter page, which reads as follows. As of today, Bosky Productions is effectively no more. 4 years ago, I set out to make a world-class video game studio, and I hired some of the best talent in the video game industry. They worked tirelessly to produce quality products, and while we had our ups and downs, I'd like to think we had fun doing it. LawBreakers was a great game that unfortunately failed to gain traction, and in a last-ditch attempt, we scrambled to do our take on the huge battle royale genre with Radical Heights, which was well received, however, it was too little too late. As for myself, I'm going to take some time off and reflect. I need to focus on myself and family as well as my Aussie, Teddy, who is slowly fading from us. Video games will forever be a part of who I am, and I hope to make something new again someday. However, I need to withdraw and take this time. To those of you who have supported myself in the studio these last 4 years, thank you from the bottom of my heart and everyone who came to work for me. Please note that servers for Radical Heights will remain up for the near future. Thanks again, Cliff. No matter what your thoughts may be about Cliff Bleszinski, Bosky Productions, and the games they made, I think we can all agree that this isn't an ideal outcome for anyone. For us gamers, it certainly would have been nice if Bosky would have released some truly unique and compelling experiences that went on to become major successes. Ultimately, that's what any of us wants from any studio, to release great games that we'll gladly want to buy and support. The last thing we desired was for Bosky to experience a string of failures with the release of its titles and eventually crumble. For Cliff and team, this is obviously a very difficult situation for them, and I'm certainly saddened to hear that this was their ultimate fate. People are obviously going to lose jobs, and it's just all around going to be a tough transition for them. I genuinely hope that Cliff and crew manage to land on their feet in the long run, that they'll take the time they need to recover, reflect, and make a strong comeback. Say what you want about Bosky, but I never got the sense that they were ever ill-intentioned. However, there is no denying that a combination of bad luck and some poor decisions led to this unfortunate result. So for those who don't know about the history of Bosky Productions, it can be traced as far back as Cliff Bleszinski's rise to prominence in the gaming industry with his work on the successful Unreal Tournament series. Cliff then garnered further acclaim with his work on the Gears of War series, which was also immensely successful. But following the release of Gears of War 3 in 2011, Cliff announced that after 20 years with the company, he'd be leaving Epic Games, stating that it was time for a much-needed break. So that's exactly what he did, and for a while he fell off the gaming industry radar. That is until June 30th, 2014, when Cliff announced that he was coming out of retirement, and the following week he announced that the name of his new studio would be called Bosky Games, and that his new game would be a free-to-play sci-fi PC arena shooter published by Nexon, codenamed Blue Streak. A year later, this game was revealed to be an arena shooter called LawBreakers, which would later change its model from free-to-play to a more traditional pay-to-play. I don't think I have to tell you how the game turned out to be a commercial failure, and the main culprit was that LawBreakers always lived under the shadow of Overwatch. LawBreakers wasn't a bad game by any means, but as a hero shooter type of experience, it was certainly in the same vein as Overwatch and took cues from that game, and in the end the competition ended up releasing earlier and being the more appealing de facto game of the genre. Things were bad enough that only 8 months after LawBreakers' release on April 5th, 2018, it was announced that Bosky would be suspending development on the game to move on to other projects. 4 days later, Bosky announced Radical Heights, the studio's desperate attempt to get a piece of the Battle Royale pie in light of the massive popularity of titles like Fortnite. But in doing so, Bosky would repeat the mistake of living under the shadow of another more popular, more appealing title. The fact of the matter was that in its extreme early access status, as Bosky called it, there was simply no reason to choose this game over PUBG or Fortnite. It was just an inferior product all around compared to the competition in every way, so when the game garnered so little traction despite having received substantial coverage from all the popular Battle Royale content creators and streamers, it didn't come as a surprise to anyone. At least with LawBreakers, one could argue that the game was different enough from Overwatch that it could have stood on its own under different circumstances. But with Radical Heights, the way it drew so heavily from Fortnite was all too blatant, giving off the correct impression that the game was a half-assed last-ditch attempt, and it certainly didn't do it any favors. Hell, Cliff even admits in his own tweet that Radical Heights was in fact a last-ditch attempt, that the team scrambled to throw Radical Heights together. And when the game failed to garner a sizable player base, the writing was on the wall with Boss Key's fate, which brings us to today's unfortunate news. I think it's safe to say that Boss Key's greatest flaw was their inability to adapt and become industry leaders rather than industry chasers, to live beyond the shadow of other franchises. If you think back to Cliff Bleszinski's work during his prime days, when somebody mentioned arena shooters back when those were really popular, you'd immediately think about the iconic Unreal series. When somebody mentioned over-the-shoulder third-person cover shooters, you'd think of his acclaimed Gears of War series. In his prime, Cliff was very much an industry leader, but after he came back from retirement, it didn't seem like he could keep up with the rapid pace at which games were evolving and got left behind to chase after trends instead of creating them. So as much as it pains me to hear about Boss Key shutting down, Cliff going out like this, and people losing their jobs, in the end, all things considered, I cannot say that any of this was unforeseen. But hey, you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I really do wish Cliff the best of luck in his future endeavors. I hope he takes as much time as he needs to reflect, lick his wounds, and pick himself back up, and I hope he comes back stronger for it. This is a sentiment that seems to be shared by many of his industry peers who have reached out to express their love and support, which is nice to see. With that, I would like to end this news update. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. It is completely optional, but donating even as little as $1 a month will go a long way in helping maintain this channel. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.